So the piece of content that I want to talk about today is an article from the Farnham Street blog that's titled "The Work Required to Have an Opinion." So I'll kind of sum up a lot of what the article says in a little snippet that it has. So it says, Lilu recently reminded me that Charlie Munger used to say something along the lines of, "You're not entitled to take a view unless and until you can argue better against that view than the smartest guy who holds that opposite view. If you can argue better than the smartest person who holds the opposite view, that is when you are entitled to hold a certain view." So I really love this, and I think it speaks so much to everyday life. I think especially guys, all people struggle with this, but I think especially guys, they'll say something random, they'll speak their opinion on something, and then somebody else comes back at them with another idea. And whether that first guy knows for sure his opinion is true or not, he kind of just goes along. He goes along with his initial opinion. He'll fight it to the death just because he doesn't want to be proven wrong on something, whether he knows all the thoughts or not. So I think this is a really important concept for us to grasp in everyday life of knowing all the varying opinions of things before we are going to argue something. So the one thing that I think I don't disagree with this article, but I think you have to be really careful that you don't take it too far is basically just that it's great to have all these other opinions coming at you and all these sources of thoughts. But I think when you finally come to that conclusion on something, you need to stick to that. You can't just constantly sway. You have to have something that you believe in. And I think this especially comes true for me, with Christianity. There are certain beliefs that I'm not willing to compromise on because I know the truth. For instance, if I have a vehicle or something and I know that it has four-wheel drive, and there's somebody who comes up to me and says, "Oh man, I really like that vehicle, but I just wish that it came in four-wheel drive. I was going to buy it, but since it didn't come in four-wheel drive, I decided not to." I was like, "Oh, well, it actually does come in four-wheel drive because mine is four-wheel drive." And he says, "No, like they didn't make that kind of vehicle with four-wheel drive. I looked." And you're like, well, I mean, I use four-wheel drive all the time, so like obviously, it does have four-wheel drive. And he says, yeah, you must be mistaken because I looked at all the models of that year and make and everything, and it didn't have four-wheel drive. So at that point, like you have to come to the realization that no matter what the facts say from outside, you know that what you believe is true because you have that possession, you have that knowledge of the facts. So when you come to those conclusions, when you're solid, then it's important not to sway from those and say, "Oh, well, because everyone else says that this vehicle doesn't come in four-wheel drive, then it must not." Something is wrong there, but you know that you have a four-wheel drive vehicle. So that's kind of a silly example, but I think it's important that we don't compromise on some of those beliefs, but definitely understand the other thoughts and opinions before you're gonna die on that hill. Pick your battles for sure.